Imagine if your entire dating life was a reality show. Every bad date, every heartbreak, every rejection broadcasted to the world for judgment. Now imagine doing that voluntarily.
The sirens right now are completely appropriate because I have felt so uncomfortable by the men I have interacted with in the past week, and it is so upsetting to me.
That's the world of Molly Rutter, a 33-year-old woman who has turned dating into content, and in doing so has slowly turned herself into an internet spectacle.
I said, you failed your mother, you failed your sisters, you failed your friends, every girlfriend you've ever had. You failed the women of this country. He also, by the way, was an African-American man.
There are internet train wrecks, and then there's whatever's happening with Molly, a name that has become synonymous with delusion, manipulation, and unhinged degeneracy.
Yeah, you can kiss me. And so we kissed, and it was really sweet, and I was loving it. And then, mid-kiss, he grabs me.
A woman so lost in her own lies, contradictions, and self-inflicted humiliation, she's become one of the most notorious lolcows of recent years. But make no mistake, this isn't just a case of internet drama spiraling out of control. This is a full-scale, slow-motion catastrophe unfolding in real time, fueled by a toxic mix of depression, ego, and unchecked narcissism.
Now, feeling super anxious because I no longer feel safe on the dating apps, and I don't know if I will ever feel safe on them again.
These words, shouted during one of her many public meltdowns, sum up Molly's entire existence, a woman trapped in a cycle of attention-seeking, delusion, and self-destruction, completely incapable of recognizing when the world has moved on without her. At first, Molly was just another loud, attention-hungry mess, posting her ridiculous antics online. But as the views came in, her behavior became increasingly erratic. From constant online feuds to deranged live streams, financial scams, public humiliations, and some of the most pathetic displays of self-sabotage ever recorded, Molly turned her life into a circus of degeneracy. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. This is a story of a person so consumed by their own self-image, so desperate to be seen, that they burned every bridge, ruined every relationship, and destroyed any last shred of dignity they once had. But before we dive into the scandals, the scams, and the sheer insanity of her downfall, let's take a moment to understand, who is Molly? Before Molly became one of the most unhinged figures on the internet, she was just another average person with an internet connection and absolutely no impulse control. She wasn't special, talented, or particularly insightful, but what she lacked in skill or intelligence, she made up for in sheer reckless attention-seeking. Molly Rutter's journey into internet infamy did not begin with dating rants or tearful TikToks. Before she became a full-time content creator, she led a relatively conventional life as a third-grade teacher. She spent time living and working in Turkey, documenting her experiences abroad through social media. Her time in Turkey offered a glimpse into her early content style, primarily lifestyle vlogging, capturing the aesthetic and cultural contrasts of her expatriate life. She started small, posting about her life, her cats and dogs, and then random outdoor experiences of her time there.
It's about damn time.
However, her first video to actually blow up is where her alleged Turkish boyfriend is seen featured.
That's all fashion, baby. Look at that is crazy. Fashion, baby. Look at that is crazy. Of your son, baby. That's crazy.
From there, she would graduate to over-the-top rants, outlandish opinions, and unprovoked attacks on random places and people, all in the name of engagement and farming. For example, one video has her complaining about a bad experience that happened to her in Turkey.
Just when I thought Turkey couldn't get any more disgusting, I reluctantly headed on an all-day boat trip in Kaş. And some words I would use to describe the water there would be filthy, smelly, murky. I nearly drowned, so yeah, would not recommend.
She used some harsh words to describe Turkey, which didn't sit well with many people. The comment section quickly filled with backlash, with people telling her to leave. However, she responded by insisting it was just a joke and that she was being sarcastic. A few days later, she made another post claiming she had escaped the US to live in Istanbul because it was much cheaper. However, what she failed to acknowledge was that tourists like her contribute to the rising cost of living for locals. Unsurprisingly, the locals didn't hesitate to call her out on her insensitive remarks. Wow, tone-deaf for locals, though. People do not realize it's rat race for us locals in Istanbul, too. Yeah, and meanwhile, locals are struggling to make ends meet. Cost of living is through the roof. People are having to move across the country. These and other comments about Turkey didn't go unnoticed. This led to a mini campaign where people actively called for her to leave their country. But Molly wasn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that because...
I'm addicted, like DJ Love, like addicted, addicted. I'm addicted, addicted, addicted. I'm addicted. I'm addicted. I'm addicted. Just can't get enough.
And for a while, she went unnoticed, just another chronically online mess trying to make a name for herself. However, upon returning to Buffalo, New York, Molly's content took a sharp turn towards something more personal and ultimately far more polarizing. Transitioning into full-time content creation, Molly quickly realized that her audience engaged most with her dating stories. While she continued posting about fashion and general lifestyle topics, it was her dating woes, her bad dates, her heartbreaks, and her repeated misadventures with men that constantly drew the most attention. There was an undeniable appeal to her vulnerability, even if it was often accompanied by an equal measure of frustration and self-sabotage. The reason dating content thrives online is simple. People love watching dating drama unfold. It's one of the oldest and most universal forms of entertainment, whether it be through reality television, romance novels, or even cautionary tales passed around in social circles. Molly's content played directly into this appeal, offering her audience an unfiltered, often exaggerated view of her romantic struggles. The more disastrous her dates became, the more people tuned in, not necessarily to empathize, but to analyze, critique, and in many cases, mock her reactions. Molly's openness made her content engaging, but it also made her an easy target. Unlike reality television stars who have producers crafting a narrative, or romance novelists who write fiction, Molly presented her dating life as raw and real. Her audience wasn't just passively watching, they were actively forming opinions about her choices. Some saw her as a relatable figure, someone navigating the treacherous waters of modern dating with good intentions but poor execution. Others viewed her as the architect of her own misery, a woman unwilling to acknowledge her role in her repeated failures. This dynamic turned Molly from a simple dating vlogger into a spectacle. Whether people watched her to relate or to ridicule, she had undeniably captured attention. And as her content continued to spiral further into emotional highs and lows, so too did the internet's fascination with her unraveling story. All of these helped Molly realize something. The more outrageous, reckless, or downright embarrassing she acted, the more people paid attention. She became addicted to the interaction. Whether it was hate comments, arguments, or even outright disgust, none of it mattered. What mattered was that people were talking about her. Negativity? Fine. Mockery? Even better. If respect wasn't an option, notoriety would have to do. Molly Rutter's first major brush with internet scrutiny came with what should have been an innocuous dating anecdote. Her attempt to set up a date with a 23-year-old finance bro she dubbed Tax Guy. The premise of the date alone raised eyebrows. Not only was Molly at 32 planning to go out with a man nearly a decade younger than her, but the outing was also set to double as a tax preparation session.
Creo que tengo una cita mañana, mi primera cita en Buffalo. Mi colega me va a ayudar a hacer la declaración de la renta. Vamos a tomar unas cervezas. Vale, suena divertido.
From the jump, the internet side-eyed her decision. Tax preparation is hardly the foundation for romance, and bringing a finance bro into the mix, a demographic not exactly known for their commitment to emotional depth, was a recipe for disaster. But Molly, either oblivious or overly optimistic, went ahead with her plans. Predictably, things did not go as intended. The date never even happened. The finance bro ghosted her at the last minute, not responding to her texts as she got ready. What followed was a now classic Molly Rutter breakdown, in which she lamented not just her own dating misfortunes, but the entire state of modern romance.
Y desapareció. La última vez que nos enviamos mensajes fue a las 3 de la mañana p.m. El plan era quedar a las 5 o 6 p.m., cuando terminara de dormir la siesta. Así que nos enviamos mensajes a las 3 de la mañana cuando me desperté de la siesta, y luego le volví a enviar un mensaje de texto a las 4:45 de la mañana diciéndole que me iba a duchar para arreglarme. Y no me ha contestado. Y ahora son como las 5:30 de la mañana, así que es obvio que no vamos a tener esta cita. Esta habría sido mi primera cita estando de vuelta en Estados Unidos y mi primera cita en mucho tiempo. De hecho, no creo que haya tenido una cita desde noviembre. Realmente emocionada por esta cita. Se veía lindo. Tuvimos una buena conversación. Odio tener citas en esta generación. Sabes, tal vez fue mi error porque él era muy joven. Tengo 32 años y él tenía 23 e hizo algo muy de gente de 23. Y para ser justos, cualquiera que tenga mi edad o más podría hacer exactamente lo mismo. Exactamente, exactamente. Giro de la trama, el colega se acaba de dormir. Así que ahora, mientras lo esperaba, hice otros planes para reunirme con Morgan y llevar a mis perros a un bar que admita perros. Él seguirá reuniéndose.
The irony of this statement was not lost on anyone. Molly wasn't dating her generation. She was dating significantly younger men. Expecting a 23-year-old to have the same level of relationship maturity as someone in their 30s seemed at best naive and at worst willfully ignorant. And then came the nitpicking. After her recounting of the ghosting incident, Molly took issue with several things about Tax Guy before they had even met in person. She was unsettled that he called her love over text, seeing it as an inappropriate term of endearment rather than a casual phrase.
Love? I was like, a bit too soon for that. And he's like, it's just a nickname. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm aware of that, but I prefer those kind of nicknames to be after I know someone better. Dude, we never even met in person yet, and you're already calling me love? You don't even know my last name yet.
By this point, audience sympathy began to wane. While being ghosted is frustrating, Molly's reaction felt disproportionate. Many noted that she seemed more concerned with rigid dating expectations than forming natural connections. But what really made the Tax Guy saga infamous was its emotional pivot. What started as a rant about dating quickly spiraled into something deeper. As she recounted her date, Molly began crying, not just about the failed date, but about her dogs and ultimately about missing her mother, who had passed away years earlier. At this moment, the internet witnessed a key aspect of Molly Rutter's storytelling: the ability to shift the narrative from dating drama to personal trauma. The discussion was no longer about whether a 23-year-old was a bad date choice. It became a window into Molly's deeper struggles with loneliness and loss. For better or worse, the internet took notice. Some empathized with her vulnerability, seeing a woman who clearly had unresolved grief. Others saw it as an unintentional pattern. Molly's dates weren't just bad. They were in some way an extension of a larger emotional struggle she was unwilling to address. Either way, the saga of Tax Guy cemented her place in the internet's growing fascination with her chaotic dating life. After a brief moment, it seemed like Molly Rutter had finally found what she was looking for. This was with a guy she referred to as a green flags galore, a man who, at least on paper, seemed to be everything she had claimed to want in a partner.
So let's recap the dates. Green flags galore, just full of green flags.
Unlike her previous string of dates with finance bros and casual flings, this man was a social worker, meaning he was not only empathetic and emotionally intelligent, but also deeply engaged in helping others. He was open-minded, well-liked by her friends, and perhaps most importantly, he genuinely seemed to like Molly.
He's a social worker. He literally has a Syrian refugee living with him right now. And he also is going through an existential crisis because his job, like, he's on a leave at his job right now, so all the hardships he's going through, like, no, this guy's really cool. Oh my god. Amazing vibes, I'm having the best time. We're going to a second location.
The internet, always wary of Molly's romantic choices, held its breath. Was this the turning point? Was this green flags guy going to break the cycle of disaster dates? At first, everything seemed promising. Molly gushed over him in her videos, calling him the most emotionally available man she had ever dated. She recounted their dates in great detail, his kindness, their chemistry, and how safe he made her feel. Unlike Tax Guy, who ghosted her, Green Flags Guy was fully present. But then came the oversharing. If there's one thing the internet has learned about Molly Rutter, it's that she cannot keep her relationships private. Every interaction, every moment of intimacy, every significant milestone, all of it became content. Green Flags Guy initially supported her social media presence, possibly thinking that he was just playing a minor role in her storytelling. But as time went on, it became clear that he was becoming the story. Molly documented everything.
Also, he watched a ton of my TikToks and likes them. He genuinely likes my content. He says he likes my personality. He thinks I'm funny. He thinks I'm inspiring. I have definitely dated guys who do not like the fact that I publicly post online, and I know for certain that there are guys who did not go on a second date with me because I post on TikTok like this, which I completely understand. This is not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone will want to date someone who publicly posts online like this, especially someone who posts publicly about their dating life. But he was not afraid of it at all. He was not insecure about it. We talked about my videos, and I even opened up to him about all the videos that have received so much hate online, and he was totally on my team. The brightest green flags all around. It was a lovely first date. I know he's probably watching this, so you better ask me honestly. I'm meeting the guy from the other night now, a bit later than expected, but it's okay. I'm excited to see him.
These are my babies. Hi.
So let me just show you a little bit of what I did record, and then I'll give you a recap after.
Look, we're welcome here. It's you. That's nice. Wow.
They're good with girls who talk in a little high voice like me. Of course they can. But I've never been here before.
Never been here, so let's run the neighborhood. Okay.
Hey, so cute. That's it? Just the whole thing like that.
At first, he played along, probably flattered by the attention. But at some point, the novelty wore off. Green Flags Guy expressed discomfort about being turned into content, but Molly didn't take the hint. Instead of easing off, she doubled down, reassuring her audience that he totally understood her job.
Guy, and it was cute. We went and got breakfast together, but I didn't film a whole lot on that date, so let me just show you a little bit of what I did record, and then I'll give you a recap after.
Look, we're welcome here. It's you. That's nice. Wow.
But support has its limits. Eventually, Green Flags Guy made it clear he didn't want to be a public figure in Molly Rutter's dating cinematic universe. He asked her to stop talking about him online. A reasonable request, but for Molly, a relationship that doesn't exist in public might as well not exist at all.
Alright, so update about the Green Flags Guy. We are officially friend-zoned. He has also asked me to not talk about him anymore on my TikTok, so I won't do that out of respect for him. And he explained to me all the reasons why he wants to just be friends, and ultimately I really respect all of those reasons, and I'm fine with it. Silver lining, I met a lot of his friends, and I went out with some of them last weekend. Not even with him. He ended up meeting us out later in the night, but my plan was just to meet up with his friends, and I had a great time. They're cool people. So I'm fine with us just being friends, and that's that.
She tried to frame it as a misunderstanding, insisting that they were still just friends while continuing to post about him anyway. The internet was quick to call her out.
You know who's not weird too, though? Him. And you know what's also not weird too? Me. And you know who else what's not weird too? His friends. He invited me out multiple times with him and his friends. His friends were really nice. We clicked. His friends asked me for my phone number. His friends invited me out. And when the guy heard that I was going out with his friends, he was delighted. I'm a people person. Dating is not just about finding a partner. It's also about meeting good human beings and building connections. It's not that big of a deal.
And just like that, Green Flags Guy became another chapter in the never-ending saga of Molly's dating life. While others may have seen the end of her relationship, Molly saw more content opportunities, dragging out discussions of what went wrong, analyzing his actions, and reflecting on what she had learned. But had she really learned anything? To outsiders, it seemed like the same cycle repeating itself. Molly found someone she liked, overshared to the point of discomfort, and then acted blindsided when they pulled away. The problem was never the men. It was her inability to separate her personal life from her online persona. By this point, it was becoming painfully clear Molly Rutter had a type, and that type was young, emotionally unavailable men who had no business being in serious relationships. Next, she went on a date with a 24-year-old who, according to her, was effortlessly cool, stylish, and different from the other guys she had dated. She seemed obsessed with his age, bringing it up multiple times in her content, almost as if she was trying to convince herself and her audience that it wasn't a bad idea.
He's great, like, really good sense of style. He's a freaking voice now. He's a musician. So is a TikTok. Oh my god, I should ask him if he's willing to, like, be public about the date. That would be fun. He asked me. Yeah.
Translation, he's exactly like every other 24-year-old guy, but I'll ignore that fact until it blows up in my face.
All right, so here's a recap of the date. There were a lot of good things, and then some things that I'm not so sure about. Basically, I feel like my life experiences get in my way sometimes of being open-minded about people. For example, very early in the conversation, we were talking about how his parents are still together, and his siblings, and how they grew up middle class, how he never finished college, so he has no student loan debt, and I just remember thinking so bitter and jealous about all those things. And I was like, am I going to be able to relate to this guy? Because I'm just so mad that that's not at all what my experience was. But I could recognize that this feeling I'm having is more about me and not so much a criticism of him. Both bond over music, and he's like a theater boy, likes to sing. I'm not going to tell you his job because it's way too specific. I've literally never met someone with this job before, and it's a really cool job. But if I say his job, it'll be way too easy to identify him. So I'll just say he's a designer of some sort.
Their first date seemed to go well, so they planned a second one, but then disaster struck.
He mentioned 2 date ideas that he wanted to take me on. The first one is for this outdoor activity that I'm not going to specify what it is because it's pretty niche and might reveal his identity, but it's one of his hobbies that he likes to do, and he invited me to come to it with my dogs, but he said it's supposed to rain that day. I don't know if you want to be out in the rain, but I personally love being in a good storm, and I'm probably just going to bring an umbrella and be prepared to get wet if you'd like to come, and you could bring the dogs if you want. A lot of other people bring dogs there. And his second date idea is to go to the gorge at Niagara Falls. And I told him this on the date itself because he brought this up on our first date. Kid you not, he goes, I gotta bring you to the gorge. And I was like, do you? You can. And so in this text, he says the second option is to go to the gorge at Niagara Falls. And he said, I of course would love for you to bring Bubba and Bo, but I'm not sure if it'll be too hard with them with all the stairs. And he said, it's definitely a workout, but it's totally worth it for the view. Okay, 24-year-old. So I replied and I said, how are you gonna make me choose between these 2 awesome dates? And I said, I think we should do both. And he agreed. And so now, coming up one of these days, we're going to do activity in the rain. And then next week, we're also going to go to the gorge at Niagara Falls.
A snowstorm hit Buffalo, making it difficult to go outside. Most people would consider a valid reason to reschedule, but for Molly, it was a personal attack. Dangly earrings guy suggested postponing due to the weather, but Molly took it as an emotional rejection rather than a logistical one.
Woke up to this text from Dangly Earrings.
Instead of shrugging it off, she spiraled into a self-care meltdown, posting dramatic updates about how exhausting dating was and how she was tired of putting herself out there only to be disappointed.
I'm so disappointed and angry. I'm just so frustrated with dating at this point. Like, there's just so much disappointment and lack of consistency. It's so easy for people to cancel plans now. Like, for example, by contrast, I was excited about this date for days, and today Jenny got a new puppy, and she invited me over, of course. But I said no because I had these plans. And now you think, okay, sure, you can, now that this date is canceled, you can just go do that anyways. But I am in such a bad mood that I need to do a self-care day or else I will be miserable. I'm just not in the mood to be sharing in someone else's joy today, which is so disappointing because if I didn't have this date plan to begin with, I could have just had my Monday plan B to go spend time with Jenny and the puppy. But no, I had plans. Or even if you would have canceled it yesterday, I could have remade plans. I could have just been angry for the evening, then remade plans to spend with Jenny today, right? But no, he cancels the day of. And I mean, I at least appreciate he didn't ghost me like so many other men do. 2 things are coexisting right now. The Molly that is so exhausted from the disappointment of dating, disappointed Molly and the angry Molly has no more F's to give. And I'm fully expecting for this guy to never reschedule and for me never to see him again. That side of Molly is a huge pessimist. Because being a pessimist feels better right now than expecting something good out of a man that has yet to prove me that he can do that. So instead of pouring hope into someone I've just met, I'm pouring love into myself today. And the part of me that is a human does understand. It's not his fault the weather's like this. And I understand what it's like to have a long weekend and you want some time to yourself. Like, I do completely understand that. Does that make me any less disappointed? No, it doesn't. Does part of me wish that he would push through feeling tired just because of how badly he wants to see me? Yeah. But does part of me think that that's a bit delulu considering I only met this man once? Also, yeah. All these things are coexisting and all of it's a mess and I'm annoyed and I just placed an Instacart order for a lot of self-care things, candles, comfort snacks, so it's gonna be a meeting.
Eventually, they rescheduled. But the next date didn't go much better. On the day of the date, Molly burned her bagel, and for some reason that set off a chain reaction that led to her being 30 minutes late. Instead of taking an Uber or just calling ahead, she walked 40 minutes in the cold, arriving flustered and visibly not in a good mood. Despite this, she tried to salvage the night, forcing chemistry where there was none. Dangly earrings guy, on the other hand, was clearly not feeling it. The breakup, if you could even call it that, was inevitable. He ended things with the classic, "I'm not looking for anything serious" line and admitted that Molly's content creation lifestyle intimidated him. But Molly, as always, took it as another lesson in heartbreak rather than a predictable outcome. Instead of recognizing that young guys with dangly earrings who aren't looking for commitment are just that, she romanticized the rejection, spinning it into content about her emotional resilience, self-worth, and the cruelty of modern dating. The pattern was clear, but Molly had her eyes closed. By this stage, Molly Rutter's dating misadventures had reached a level where even her most devoted followers had to wonder, is she doing this for content, or does she really have no self-preservation instincts? Her latest target, a British guy she met online. After a single 20-minute FaceTime call, she decided that this man, whom she had never met in person, was worth a 2-hour road trip.
I have 2 chicken salad wraps, a banana, 2 cheese sticks. I don't really have an ice pack. Should I put a baggie of ice in there? Is that silly? Let's do it. Cute! Perfume and my primer, bronzer, more bronzer, concealer. This is technically concealer, but I use it as foundation, eyebrows, mascara, freckles, eyelash curler, nail glue just in case one of these pops off, deodorant, powder, extra sets of contacts, blush, setting spray, toothpaste, toothbrush, dry shampoo. My plan is to drive there, and when I'm a half hour, 45 minutes away, I'll pull over, do my makeup, and then change my clothes and do my hair. Oh man, I'm sweating just packing like this. Jesus Christ. Tide to go pen, lip liner, my lip gloss. Portable fan, of course. Cell phone charger. Okay, and then I'm also bringing my hair dryer and my round brush. My plan is to wear my hair down with a middle part, but if it's really looking terrible, I have this claw clip, so I'll just wear it up with my bangs down if this doesn't work out. Also these sunnies. Okay, let's go.
For most people, this would have been a casual first meetup, maybe a coffee date. But for Molly, absolutely not. Instead, she rented a car, packed enough food for an entire camping trip, and loaded her backseat with makeup, skincare, and an absurd amount of supplies, as if she were prepping for a week-long romantic getaway instead of a casual date with a stranger. And if that wasn't enough, she pulled over on the side of the road before reaching him to do a full hair and makeup transformation. By the time she arrived, the reality of the situation started sinking in. There was no chemistry, no magical spark, no sweeping cinematic romance like the one she had built up in her head. Just an awkward British dude, a weird amount of food in her car, and the realization that she had just driven 2 hours for nothing. And like clockwork, she turned the self-inflicted disaster into content about learning from mistakes and trusting the universe. But the universe wasn't done with her yet. If you thought Molly's worst dating experience involved dangly earrings, self-tanner, or driving across state lines for British accents, you'd be wrong. Because then came AI Guy. Molly met him through a dating app, an Indian student studying artificial intelligence. She was intrigued, thinking this could finally be a mature, intelligent relationship.
My first date in a month. Guys, I feel really cute tonight. I'm excited to meet this guy. So he's from India. He goes to university in Buffalo. It's his first time in the States ever. And he's studying AI. How cool is that? He's adorable. Absolutely adorable. He's definitely shy and nervous, which is actually really endearing. Vibes are still good. We already talked about meeting up for another date. I'm a little bummed he doesn't want to go to a second location with me, but he does have classes in the morning, so I don't fully blame him.
At first, everything seemed fine. Their date was normal by Molly's standards, until it wasn't.
This date ended terribly. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. It was so bad in the end.
The turning point, their first kiss. Instead of a romantic moment, AI Guy made a very wrong move.
Talking super close, and I'm like, do you think it's okay if we kiss in here? And he's like, I mean, if it's with you. And then I was like, yeah, you can kiss me. And so we kissed, and it was really sweet, and I was loving it. And then, mid-kiss, he grabs me.
It was instant discomfort. Molly immediately called him out, and to his credit, he profusely apologized. His excuse? Cultural differences and a past experience with a Spanish woman.
So I was really honest with him about how inappropriate that was, considering we were in a public space. And then he was extremely apologetic. This guy was mortified, honestly. He proceeds to tell me about how the most recent girl he went out with is from Spain, and how when they were making out, she said to him, why aren't you touching my... And so I guess homeboy interpreted that as that's what every girl wants to do when you're making out with her in public. Interesting. interesting take on that one.
Yes, AI guy tried the "my Spanish ex-girlfriend was into it" defense. Stunningly bad strategy. Despite her miscomfort, Molly still agreed to go to a second location with him. Because, of course, she did. And that's when things took a turn for the ridiculous. At a bar, Molly handed her phone to a stranger, presumably to take a picture or something similarly innocent. AI guy was horrified. He told her it was reckless, that she needed to be more careful. This, for Molly, was unacceptable. His concern triggered a feminist meltdown.
Homeboy decides to essentially scold me and criticize me for giving my phone to a stranger. He's telling me how dangerous that is, how someone could just steal it, how he doesn't trust people and he really cares about protecting people that he cares about. Basically just telling me how risky it is what I did and like not to do that. And I look at him and I'm like, I'm very capable of assessing danger in a situation. I could tell she wasn't going to do anything with my phone. I felt completely fine giving it to her. But he keeps talking about it. He keeps going. He's like definitely mansplaining at this point. And then I'm getting mad. Because I'm like, you're not respecting my ability as an adult human being to make my own decisions about my own safety. Even if what I did was risky, just the extent he was going through to explain this to me was really rubbing me the wrong way. And if I had already been trauma triggered earlier in the night, now it was even more. Because now we're entering territory of a man telling me what to do, hiding behind the facade of being a knight in shining armor, of protecting the people around him. Don't tell me what to do, respect my autonomy and maturity as a human being to make my own decisions. Okay? You're not my father, you don't need to take care of me, I am fine. It is fine, everything is fine. Please stop talking to me about it. That tone of voice did come out in the end, where like I was really controlling myself because I was super mad. And I remember I was looking at him and I was doing that thing where when you're so angry, you talk in like a slow, calm voice. I remember I said to him, I am a strong, independent woman who has traveled all over the world. I am completely capable of assessing the safety of a situation like that. Please do not tell me what to do and respect my own decision making for my own life. That's essentially what I told him.
The final straw? AI guy actually tried to do what Molly wanted. Molly had previously expressed that she liked when men asked for permission before touching her. So later in the evening, he did exactly that.
He was like, no, you're absolutely right. I totally get that. I've learned so much from you tonight. Like, you obviously were such a good teacher because you taught me so much about confidence. So now I'm getting the ick. Like, now my skin is starting to crawl. I'm like, I'm not your mommy. I'm not your teacher. I am on this date with you to find connection, to ultimately find a partner. Okay? Instantly, I was like, this is never gonna work. Like, never, never, ever, ever, ever. And then, the icing on the cake is he says, you taught me how to be a better man.
Molly's reaction? Complete 180. AI guy was swiftly booted from her dating roster. But if there was one thing this disaster confirmed, it was that Molly was not just unlucky in love, she was the architect of her own chaos. Because Molly's dating struggles aren't just bad luck, they're self-inflicted disasters. And her refusal to acknowledge that makes her infinitely more compelling and infuriating to watch. The combination of oversharing, emotional vulnerability, and terrible dating decisions makes Molly's content impossible to ignore. She is raw, unfiltered, and completely unaware of how she comes across.
Últimamente, toda mi personalidad en línea se ha centrado en mis 3 animales, y todos los demás que me seguían antes de que ese video se volviera viral. Os daré una actualización sobre Monty, y si no queréis saber la actualización sobre Monty, tenéis que ver mis videos. No voy a dar explicaciones, pero la actualización sobre Monty es que ha mejorado.
The emotional highs and lows, the self-inflicted heartbreak, the way she cycles through the same mistakes over and over again. It all creates a train wreck effect. Even those who start watching with genuine interest in her journey eventually turn into hate watchers. Molly's dating history is a case study in poor decision-making. There are patterns, glaring, painfully obvious patterns that she refuses to acknowledge. Number 1 is that Molly consistently sets herself up for failure. Whether it's dating chronically unavailable younger men, rushing into things too quickly, or turning minor inconveniences into emotional catastrophes, every new date feels doomed from the start. Every failed relationship gets framed as yet another example of men being trash. There's never any self-reflection, no moment of, maybe I shouldn't have road-tripped 2 hours for a stranger. Instead, it's always, men in this generation just don't know how to communicate. I hate that guys get scared off when I show emotions. I don't get why dating is so hard. People saw Molly Rutter as just another unlucky in love content creator. But as her self-inflicted dating misfortunes continued piling up, the internet's morbid fascination turned into something else, genuine frustration, and then the real controversies started. If you thought Molly's dating struggles were limited to her recent failed attempts at romance, you'd be mistaken. because she wasn't just fixated on the men she was currently dating, she was still obsessing over her ex from Turkey. Now, everyone has an ex they think about from time to time, but Molly, she took it to another level. Despite the fact that her Turkish ex-boyfriend had moved on, gotten married, and was living a whole new life, Molly couldn't stop bringing him up. She romanticized their past relationship constantly.
So I did something really toxic. You know how on TikTok, it shows you, on this day, it shows you little memories of your previous TikToks. Well, one of my memories was a video of me and my ex-boyfriend. For those who don't know this already, I dated a Turkish guy for a year and a half when I was in Turkey. It was really serious. I honestly thought I was gonna marry this guy. And so I was feeling really good about it all day. And stupid me, opened up his Instagram and just stalked him and his wife's content. Worst thing you could possibly do, I know. But it was like this itch that I needed to scratch because I wanted so badly to see him not doing well. And I know that's really, again, messed up to admit, but don't we all do that with our exes? Because someone who did us dirty, we just hope that they're not doing well. We're broken up now for over a year, and so I just thought that I was in a good place with it. And then I just got that TikTok notification, I saw that video, and I stalked him and his wife's Instagrams. I shouldn't have done that, because I found out now they're living in Chicago, and I just, oh my god, I went down a rabbit hole.
But then she'd contradict herself. In the same breath, she turned around and accused him of cheating and blamed him for her trust issues.
He did on me, and I broke up with him. And then I, of course, today, since I was feeling toxic, I went and stalked his social media, and I found out he's married. He got married less than a year after cheating on me and getting broken up with.
Molly would even go as far as making TikToks about their relationship, including old videos of them together, despite him being married. She turned their entire thing into a reflecting on love series on TikTok, justifying it as part of her healing journey. Except it wasn't healing, it was just digging up old wounds for content. And just when people thought Molly couldn't be any more out of touch, another scandal hit. This time it was about her own appearance. The internet has a love-hate relationship with dating apps. Some people find relationships, others find nightmares, and some, like Molly, find themselves at the center of a full-blown controversy. It started when a Reddit user stumbled upon her Hinge profile. Now, that shouldn't have been a big deal. Molly was openly dating and constantly talking about her experiences. But there was one problem. Her Hinge photos looked significantly different from how she appeared on her TikTok videos. The user posted side-by-side screenshots, pointing out that her dating profile featured old, heavily filtered photos, while her real-life appearance had changed dramatically. And that's when the accusations started. People accused Molly of catfishing and calling it false advertising. Molly, of course, denied everything. She refused to acknowledge the difference, claiming people were being shallow, and framed the backlash as a misogynistic attack on women's appearances.
This happens all the time. I've said this before. So often men look so much better in person than they do in their photos. And do you think those people are catfishing me then? What about men who are clean shaven in photos with short hair, but in person they have a beard and long hair? Are they catfishing? What about people who show pictures of themselves in the summertime where they have more of a suntan, more freckles on their face, but then you go on a date with them in the winter? Are they catfishing you? Someone with a different hair color, are they catfishing? No? No, you don't consider that catfishing. But you consider it times where you have more or less body fat. Do you really think it crosses my mind when I'm putting together my dating profile? Do you really think I'm thinking, I better make sure all my photos show exactly the correct amount of body fat that I have right now? Do you really think I care about that? That's a concern of mine? I hope to God I never encounter people in real life like those nameless, faceless Reddit people. Because those are not the people I want to surround myself with. Beauty is more than skin deep. Beauty is more than just the amount of body fat you have on. Bodies fluctuate, appearances change. What matters is how you are on the inside. I would rather be a catfish for showing more or less body fat than to be a nameless, faceless coward on Reddit criticizing someone else's body. I'd rather be that kind of catfish than to be the kind of catfish you are on Reddit, where you're pretending to be some high and mighty justice warrior. We better protect all these people out there so they don't date Molly because, oh my gosh, wait till they see how much body fat she has on her. My God! Like, find something else to do with your time. Why do you care? Are you the one going on the date with me? You better not. Like, genuinely, why does it matter to you? I've never spent time thinking about that. I've never even come close to thinking something like that. I'll never understand it. And I'm so mad that you've made me feel unsafe to present myself in a dating profile. It makes me so angry. But I know I need to protect myself right now. I know that if I go back on these apps and I find out Reddit's getting worse, I know I'm going to crumble. And so I just need to protect my peace at this time and not participate in that. I don't know what else to say. I really don't know what this means about the future of my dating life. And then therefore, what's the future of my dating content?
The real controversy wasn't that Molly looked different, it was that she was actively misrepresenting herself. People pointed out that if a man did this using decade-old photos to appear younger and more fit, he'd be roasted online. Yet instead of admitting she should have used recent photos, Molly dug her heels in. She even went on TikTok and accused people criticizing her of being toxic incels. By this point, the internet wasn't just frustrated with her, they were actively calling her out. By October 2023, Molly Rutter had already alienated a significant portion of her audience. But nothing, not her oversharing, not the Turkish ex-obsession, not the catfish allegations, could compare to what she did next. On a seemingly normal day in October, Molly uploaded a TikTok that immediately sent shockwaves through her audience. The thumbnail was alarming, a black eye, flashing police lights, and a caption that read, "Date from hell." Within minutes, her comment section was flooded with concern. People were genuinely worried for her well-being. Some even messaged her privately, offering support, legal advice, and even resources for domestic violence survivors. It looked like the absolute worst had happened, that one of Molly's disastrous dates had finally gone horribly, horribly wrong. For 24 hours, Molly let the speculation run wild. She didn't clarify, didn't respond, didn't correct anyone's assumptions. And then, in the most tone-deaf reveal imaginable, she dropped the plot twist. The entire post was an ad for a haunted house. Molly had staged the black eye with makeup. The flashing police lights were added for dramatic effect. The vague caption that led everyone to believe she had been assaulted on a date? Clickbait. To make things even worse, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The backlash was instant and brutal. Even people who had previously defended her, who had rooted for her through all the self-inflicted disasters, were done. And how did Molly respond? No accountability, no apology, without even a bare minimum acknowledgement of how deeply inappropriate this was. Instead, Molly doubled down. She acted like people were overreacting and dismissed the backlash as just haters looking for something to be mad about. At this point, Molly wasn't just self-unaware. She wasn't just messy, she was actively alienating the last few people who had stuck by her. By this point, Molly's reputation was in a free fall. What had started as a quirky dating saga had turned into something darker. The haunted house stunt had been the tipping point. But instead of taking a step back to reflect on why so many people were upset, Molly did what she always did. She doubled down. For years, Molly had cultivated an online presence built on vulnerability. But vulnerability has a price. It invites scrutiny. Molly's biggest critics had always been Reddit users. Entire threads were dedicated to breaking down her self-sabotaging behavior, her dating choices, and her inability to learn from past mistakes. And Molly hated them for it. According to Molly, Reddit was to blame for all her struggles. Not her bad decisions, not her refusal to take accountability, not the fact that she had built a brand on oversharing, just Reddit. She claimed that people posting about her made her feel unsafe on dating apps, that men were now wary of dating her because they didn't want to end up as content. As if she hadn't been documenting her love life online for years, as if her own actions hadn't led to this. For most people, this was a wild take. Because Reddit wasn't stalking Molly. Reddit wasn't following her to restaurants, filming her, and posting her dates online. Reddit was reacting to content that she herself had put out there. And yet Molly still refused to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, she was part of the problem. But after the DV clickbait stunt, there were no more neutral parties. The mainstream internet had turned on her, and at the end of the day, Molly's story isn't unique. We've seen this cycle before. Oversharing turns into backlash. Backlash turns into victimhood. Victimhood turns into doubling down. Rinse, repeat. So where does Molly go from here? Does she take a step back, reflect, and change her approach? Or does she continue the cycle, burning through whatever goodwill she has left until there's no audience left to witness the train wreck? At this point, it could go either way. What's clear, though, is this. Lately, Molly has been on a relentless streak of trolling her critics, primarily TikTok followers and Redditors. In a recent video, she posted this caption: "TikTok is messy, beautiful, and real, just like life. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. May we meet again." Followed by this video:
Thanks to social media, we now have access to sides of humanity that is unprecedented. And no other social media platform has been able to do this as well as TikTok. That's what I love the most about this app. Its ability to connect, shift perspectives, start movements. The flip side to witnessing all these facets of what makes us human, though, is that it also reveals our flaws, contradictions, and sometimes the ugly, messy, and vulnerable parts of life. I've chosen to relish in that flawed messiness because it's real. I've always found joy in the connections that come from vulnerability. The empathy I've witnessed on this app has been astounding, and I'll never forget it. I've received some of the most disgusting and hateful comments I've ever seen in my life through this app. But on the other hand, I've also experienced stunning proclamations of love and support on a massive scale. What makes TikTok so special is its ability to amplify and connect humanity, whether for big things or small ones. It's changed my life. I've raised money to rescue my dogs from halfway across the world, and I've been able to leave my career as a teacher to pursue something with more creative freedom and financial possibility. I've always been a strong communicator, a passionate storyteller, and an imaginative creative. TikTok has allowed me to express all of that, build a community, and also a livelihood around it. If you've ever sent me a kind comment or message, I promise you I've read it, even if I didn't respond. I've always said that social media is an extension of reality, and knowing that so many of you were here sharing this journey with me has given me validation and camaraderie as I've navigated my life, which has been messy at times, as we know, from dating disasters to just doing the dishes. I appreciate you more than I can ever say. Even if this app disappears, I'm confident that we'll find ways to connect because we've tasted something truly beautiful here. And I don't know about you, but I never want to let that go.
And then just a few days later, she posted an update revealing that TikTok had banned her from earning on the platform.
Hi guys, I just want to let you know that I just got a notification that TikTok has disqualified me from the Creator Rewards program, that I have violated community guidelines, but they have not specified which community guidelines I have violated. I have a feeling that I was disqualified either because they're unwilling to resolve the payment that I'm owed, or maybe the fact that I've been open and political on here. I'm sure we've all been hearing that creators have been getting censored on here for being open about their political views. So I don't know if that's a reason. I might never find out the reason why, but that means that all of my income I should have gotten from last month, and that means that all of the income I should be receiving from this next month from these videos that I've had that have gone viral, I'm not going to be receiving the payment for, because it says that I can reapply on February 22nd. All of this is to say that I will now be permanently deleting this platform. I am planning to export the last bit of my data just to make sure I have everything, and I will be completely pivoting to YouTube. Still maintain my Instagram account, but as you probably know, I'm not super active on there. So if you want to continue seeing me, if you've been a longtime supporter of me, I would really appreciate if you went over and subscribed to me over there. I'm also sharing this story to raise awareness to any other creators out there who are posting on this platform, just so you're aware something may happen to others as well. I hope everyone's doing the best they can to protect themselves. And yeah, see you guys over on YouTube. I'll probably be deleting this account within the next 24 hours or so. Basically, whenever I get the confirmation that I've received my data, I'm just getting rid of this app.
She also hinted that at this point, she might have to get a real job.
All right, let's get into it. To all of you trolls who've been telling me to get a real job, okay? So the fact of the matter is that I spent a large portion of today applying to part-time jobs in my community. Now, the trolls might be thinking this is a big W for them, a big I told you so for them, that you could never make it as a full-time content creator with the amount of followers that I have. And they're gonna think this is a big L for me. That this is a failure of mine, that I was irresponsible, that I shouldn't have done this. And you know what, to all those people I say, what's a real job to you? Because I think in content creation, I exchange a service in the form of entertainment for money. That sounds like a real job to me, doesn't it? Maybe you think it was a realer job when I was going to grad school and I was a grad assistant in the dean's office for the School of Education. And then I also worked for Uber on the side, and then also worked as a substitute teacher. So I worked 3 jobs while I was putting myself through school. Was that a real job to you? What about when I was working the front desk at the Holiday Inn and I got harassed by a guest that was there?
In all of this, she never once took responsibility for the common denominator in every disaster, herself. And that's what makes Molly Rutter so fascinating and so frustrating to watch. Because the truth is, Molly Rutter doesn't just struggle with dating. She struggles with accountability. She struggles with boundaries. She struggles with the reality that the internet will never be the safe, supportive space she wants it to be. So what happens next? Molly has 2 choices. She can step away, reflect, and grow from this, or she can keep making the same mistakes, doubling down and digging herself deeper into the internet's hall of infamy. Right now, the choice is still hers. But if history has taught us anything, the internet isn't betting on a happy ending.